This week on Route 66. Here's your host, Tim Clark.
Well, good morning. Welcome to another episode of This Week on Route 66. Today I'm excited because we're featuring the world famous Cucamonga Service Station in Rancho Cucamonga, California. But first, just a quick message from Nick.
Do you have an announcement, a news item, or a product promotion that you'd like to share with the Route 66 community? There are three different options for you to share your information. Option 1, call into our studio hotline anytime, any day, and record your voice message. Or Option 2, call in for a voice conversation with a host. Or Option 3, schedule an online video interview. It's free and a fun way to get your information out to the Route 66 community. See our Facebook page for more information. And now back to Tim for more This Week on Route 66.
Today, David Dunlap is joining us from Rancho Cucamonga, California. Welcome, David.
Hi, good to be here.
Now, before we talk about the Cucamonga Service Station, can you briefly tell our viewers just a little bit about Route 66 Inland Empire, California?
Sure. The organization was started, there's a state Route 66 association, as most of the states have. And back in 2012, Route 66 Inland Empire, California, broke away from that group to establish a separate group that concentrates primarily on the area from like San Bernardino out to Pomona, just that small section. Because we found there's a number of sites along there that we wanted to get involved with that the larger group really wasn't wanting to take on. And part of that was the Cucamonga Service Station itself. The state group doesn't really get into owning property and doing restoration, but this group was really anxious to do that. So we broke off and were able to acquire the station to do the restoration.
So that leads into my next topic is, David, can you tell us some history of the Richfield Station and the restoration?
Sure. The Cucamonga Service Station was built in 1915. It's a very old station right there on Route 66. And, for years people would drive by because it had been abandoned since the 1970s. And folks would drive by and just think, boy, that's a cool little station. I wish somebody would do something with it. And nobody really had the money or the resources to do it. So it sat abandoned for decades. Finally, in 2009, there was a group here in town that petitioned the city council and got it designated as a city historic landmark, which is really what saved it from demolition. Eventually, and if you've ever visited the station, there's a large electronic billboard that sits right on one side of the property. The company that owned that billboard owned the property, and they approached the city wanting to demolish the station. And they said, no, that's a landmark. You can't do that. And that's when our organization raised our hands and said, well, we'll be glad to take it off your hands. So we worked out a deal with them. They donated the property to us. And because we're a 501c3, they got the tax write-off. We got the station. Their only stipulation was that we keep an easement so they can get to their sign. We said, no problem. It was a great trade-off.
Sure.
And that allowed us to get in and begin the restoration and saving that precious landmark, because there's so little of that original roadside architecture that's left. I always say California is very quick to bulldoze their history. And so being able to save a vital piece of California and Route 66 history was important to us.
And you know what's interesting, you mentioned that the service station was originally built, I believe you said in 1915. I just did the math. That's 11 years prior to Route 66.
Exactly. So when Route 66 came through, they were in a prime location, you know.
Absolutely.
And in those early decades, people that were traveling along Route 66 would stop and stop in. There used to be a diner next door that was very popular. So they were able to stop, get something to eat, gas up and whatnot. That diner is long gone, unfortunately, but the station still survives.
Well, that's really interesting. So now we've gotten up to when you acquired the property. Can you tell us about the restoration?
Certainly. Of course, once we got a hold of the property, first thing we did was organize a cleanup day and went in and cleaned up the lot because it was quite a mess. There used to be a large service garage behind the station, and unfortunately, in 2011, before we got the property, there had been a little fire in there. The roof collapsed, and the city just bulldozed the whole thing away out of safety concerns. So we just had the station itself, the little gas station out front, to do the restoration on. And we used a bunch of volunteers. We had volunteer contractors that came in and volunteered their resources and time, and just a lot of other interested volunteers to get in there and start working. And it was interesting because as soon as we started doing that, and the community would drive by and see, ooh, something's happening there, they got real interested. And the donations started coming in. People would just roll up and donate stuff for our museum, artifacts and things. So it really sparked a big interest in the community as soon as they saw that work happening.
Now, that's really interesting. Now, that exterior looks beautiful. Can you tell us about the interior?
Yeah, well, when we got in, the interior was pretty much gone. It was stripped down to the studs, which was fortunate in one respect because there had been so much water damage from the leaky roof that a lot of those studs were in real bad shape and we needed to replace them. In fact, there was one wall, and I always tell people, it was so rotted out, the stucco was about the only thing holding it up. It was really in bad shape. So it was nice that we were able to get in and replace all that without having to tear off the walls and whatnot. So it was pretty much a blank canvas for us. We looked around. We had plenty of pictures of the outside of the station. We looked and asked folks if they had any pictures of the inside so we'd have an idea of what. Nobody had anything. So we used our own imagination and we did. It's a very small spot. It's a little over 400 square feet, so there's not much there. And there's a number of large windows on it, so there's really not a lot of wall space to hang things. And so we created a separate wall, a dividing wall in part of it that gives us room to hang things and put displays on it. But yeah, so we were pretty much open to whatever we wanted on the interior. We did put down a nice epoxy floor, and one of the guys actually was able to create our logo on the floor. So as soon as you walk in, there's that large, about 3-foot diameter logo. So that's exciting for folks.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, is there any type of gasoline related artifacts inside?
Oh yes. And we have a small museum in the back. The rest is all gift shop, as any museum has. And yeah, we have several cabinets full of artifacts and displays that are lots of fun. Yeah. And again, most of that was donated.
Oh, cool. Now, I really like Petrabilia, so I'm just curious, how hard is it to find Richfield Petrabilia?
Some of it is fairly easy to find. Richfield was big on handouts and promotions for their customers. So, matches, pens, maps. One of the things they did a lot of was every year they would do wildflowers, and they would put out this little paper book of a wildflower guide. They'd give out wildflower seeds, and we've got some of those on display. So yeah, they had a lot of little handout things, and those things are around and fairly easy to find. So yeah, there's a lot of that kind of Richfield stuff. We had a few people came by and donated old oil cans and that kind of thing that they had laying around. But yeah, some of that stuff is out there. It's not as popular as some of the other brands that are out there. You can find some of those cans and things all over the place. The Richfield ones are a little tougher to find, but they're there.
Well, I'm sure that's interesting. So What about the future? Do you have any future plans, or is the project complete, or is there more to do?
No, and I keep telling folks when they come in to thank us for the restoration, I keep telling them we're not done. That was phase one. Um, Actually, phase two, there used to be a little restroom building separate to the side. We've rebuilt that, thank goodness. So we've got that rebuilt restroom. We've got the station. And of course, our large project is going to be restoring that garage. That will add over 1,000 square feet of museum space for us and a little bit of office space. We have stuff in storage all over town. I have stuff here at home that we just don't have room to display. And my wife keeps asking me, well, when are we getting rid of this? And I say, well, when we built the garage. But yeah, so we're anxious to get that garage underway. And we do have fundraisers going constantly to raise money for that. And we're always looking for grants and whatnot. So that's our big project coming up.
Well, that sounds great. Now, I looked at your website, and the station has received a number of awards and recognitions. Can you share some of those?
Sure. I think, obviously, the city landmark designation. We were awarded an award from the California Preservation Foundation for our design preservation of the station. We're listed on the National Register of Historic Places. We were awarded a governor's presidential or preservation award and so forth. So we've gotten a number of awards throughout the years. The organization and the station itself have gotten awards, and it's pretty cool because people come in and realize, oh yeah, this is legit,
Yeah, and it looks like just a top-notch restoration. I mean, from what I've seen, it just looks fabulous.
Yeah, they really did a wonderful job.
Now, again, I was looking at your website, and I see an annual car show mentioned.
Yes.
Now, is that part of the station, or is that a city car show? And can you tell us about this car show?
That's ours. We run that every year. Obviously, not at the station. We don't have room for a car show at the station. There's a restaurant down the way that's a historic restaurant there on Route 66. It's been there since like 1848. And they've got a huge parking lot. So they let us use their parking lot every year for our car show. We'll pull in on a big year about 200 cars. So it's a big show. And we do that every June. And that raises money. Again, that all goes towards the restoration of the garage. But yeah, every June we do that. Now, the cool thing with that is we pick 12 winners every year. Those 12 winners we photograph we'll pick a historic spot somewhere in town. We'll photograph them there, and then they are in our calendar for the next year.
Oh, how cool is that? Yeah.
So the guys really love being in the calendar, Yeah.
So now, is that limited to California residents?
Oh no, anybody that wants to bring their car out can do that.
So a person like myself from Arkansas could end up on your calendar.
Yeah. Now you'd have to come back out for the photo shoot.
Or maybe just stay there. Yeah. Anyway, that is a really cool niche. I love that. Yeah. So I got to ask you another question. On a lighter note, I listen to old time radio. Now, did Jack Benny ever take a train to Cucamonga?
Not that I've ever found. He may have. And in fact, a lot of the Hollywood stars were aware of Cucamonga. Back in the day, it was mostly agricultural. We had vineyards and citrus groves, but the movie studios would come out and do a lot of filming out in the area. And it was great. They could come out, film all day, and nobody bother them. There was nobody out here at the time. Now it's a huge city, but back then they could come out and film all day and not worry about it. So they were certainly aware of it. And I'm sure we had a number of Hollywood people stop at the station. I wish we had photos of some of that, but it doesn't exist.
Now, you did mention a couple of street names to me while we were visiting and pre-production. Could you share that information?
Such as Foothill Boulevard, which is now Route 6. Well, it's Route 66, but it's termed Foothill Boulevard. Yeah.
I was thinking of Jack Benny Street.
Oh, yes. we have a minor league team here in town, and their stadium is right on Jack Benny Way and corner of Jack Benny and Rochester. And
How cool
a
is that?
lot of folks don't get the joke.
I'm there. I'm old enough. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I always thought that. I always got a chuckle out of that, And
Yeah.
a lot of folks don't even get it. But
Yeah. Got to go back a few generations.
We do have a theater in town that puts on productions, plays, and whatnot, or brings in concerts and that kind of thing. And they have a big life-size statue of Jack Benny in the lobby. So the town does acknowledge his contribution to our popularity.
Well, that's great. So, David, tell our viewers how they can get more information on the Cucamonga Service Station and any upcoming events.
Sure. Our website is probably the best way to do it, cucamongaservicestation.net. You can go in there and find information about the car show, about our restoration, and you can buy one of our bricks that we sell as a fundraiser. We sell inscribed commemorative bricks. Right now, those are all installed around the station. Our goal is once the garage is rebuilt, we'll build a commemorative walkway in front of the garage. And a lot of folks will put on their messages, or we even have companies that put their logos on the bricks and whatnot. And so you can go online and order one of those and see some of the other interesting things that we're up to.
That sounds like a real interesting fundraiser. And before we go, do you have any closing comments?
Not really. We are looking in 2025, October of 25, will be the 10th anniversary of when we reopened the station. And so we're putting together a big gala event for that to raise money and commemorate that 10-year anniversary. We were really happy that, we realized, we're going to hit 10 years. We need to celebrate. So we're already putting that together. And of course, we're all gearing up for the centennial of Route 66 in 2026. That's, I'm sure, going to be a big tourism attraction.
Right.
As it is now, we get people from all over the globe on Route 66 stopping in. And so it's going to be a big event in 26. We're really looking forward to that.
So when you're cruising Route 66 through California, be sure to stop at the Cucamonga Service Station and check out the world famous Route 66 landmark. And David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching This Week on Route 66. Feel free to share this video link with your friends and family, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, keep getting your kicks on Route 66.